I just cringed when I heard my voice on that voicemail.
Hey, Dennis Byron's in the building. Hey, man, I'm the same way. I can't
Playboy with too.
listen. I can't even watch my own videos. I'm gonna be honest. Like, it just pains me so much. So I'm with you, Dennis. Thank you for calling in, man. I appreciate you being here this morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. I had to pull up. Someone sent me a link to your videos yesterday.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That's me on the screen.
That was you. All you, man. Hey, listen, you were holding out like you were playing a high stakes poker game up in there. I was like, this man is a true professional. I don't know how you did it. But anyway, before we get into it,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. We got to let the people know where they can find you, where they can support your content, all that good stuff.
Well, you can find me on all social medias at Mr. Dennis Byron. That's the MrDennisByron. I wasn't going to finesse it like Mr. Pee Wee Roscoe, but that is how you find me.
All right. Well, Dennis, I mean, you have so much experience, not only in your professional career, but when it comes to this YSL trial in general. I mean, you were in the courtroom, you were taking shots from Judge Whitaker. I mean, so many things have gone on.
Oh my God!
Just share your thoughts, man. What's on your mind?
Well, hold on. Let's talk. Since you addressed the elephant in the room, Judge Whitaker kind of played me, but it's all good. I mean, I saw it. Listen, when you said that yesterday on the show, and you put the sound effect behind, that's oh man, now I'm ready to get revenge.
Yes. Yeah, man, she had it out for the media for a while. I mean, y'all were feeling the heat.
But see, I'm gonna have to defend her a little bit because I had a certain individual in the room who created an atmosphere that made certain individuals scrutinize, quote unquote, members of the press. And and this is why I'm always apprehensive when certain individuals who's not put in the work or done the work or even can comprise a story show up and try to wear the badge of media. And there was a whole lot of stuff going on. I don't really want to talk about too much over here because he's hating on her. He said, no, I'm not hating on you. But I shouldn't have caught that. I shouldn't have caught that straight when I did. But that's another story. I think I talked about it on the lead attorney's platform.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to. During the trial, I didn't want to make it a big issue because it wasn't about me. It was about all the individuals that were obviously facing a heck of a lot of time. So I didn't want to throw her off our A game, and that's the judge because once I fired the paperwork, it would have been a different situation. Then then I didn't want other members of the press to catch it either. So, but with that said, I mean the case is over with to a certain degree.
Yeah,
and I mean, the great thing about this, and I'm going to commend you, and someone put your name in my chat. I didn't know who you were, but I see now that you have been covering this case as well. And I think the value in allowing individuals to, I guess, even do reactions to some of the stories that we do is that more people are now more aware of how the criminal justice system works.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this a long time. And I scratch my head when I see some of the outcomes of some of these trials. But now, it's important for other people to actually see this and, they can make their own assessment based on the way that it comes out in cameras. This is why removing cameras from the courtroom is the worst thing a judge can do.
Yes.
The worst thing.
I agree.
While you saw the law crime camera, but it was only one camera in the courtroom, when she did what she did. You need to be able to see the reactions to testimony. You need to be able to, I like capturing moments in history. And I shared some of my photos on social media, but I'm watching not just who's on the stand, but what the reaction is to certain things that are being said. So with that, I don't take kindly to judges removing real media out the courtroom when they're actually doing their work.
Yeah. And I mean, you've been involved in this trial and several other trials throughout your career. Specifically in this trial, what feeling or sense did you get being in the courtroom? Maybe even pre-Whitaker with Judge Glanville being there. And then once she came in and as everything progressed over the past few months to the end of the trial, what was the atmosphere like for you?
Well, the first thing I noticed, and this is important for people to understand, this trial, the behind the scene things that was happening before this trial, I knew already there was some BS about to happen, because the first thing I noticed is the first day that right after the judge took the bench, Judge Glanville, I saw a high presence of security at the courtroom door. Usually when I cover trials throughout Fulton County, you have the regular deputies moving about, but you don't have long guns in front of the courtroom door. And that's not for the defendants, because they don't get a chance to see who's outside. That's for the people who are coming in. And it was very intimidating. Plus the searching of lawyers, attorneys, attorneys who hold bar cards. They're searching their bags like they're criminals.
Wow.
And it was giving me the impression that the government was trying to send a message to the lawyers. And then you saw what happened when Judge Glanville ordered an attorney to write an essay, AP style essay on the, I forgot what the issue was at the time, but you know, they were doing so much to these lawyers. You had other lawyers having to buy lunch, and you had another lawyer who had donuts, and you had another lawyer who had his medicine in another bottle, and they made that an issue. And you know, just a lot going on. And I haven't seen this in that Fulton County. I've been covering cases in Fulton County for over 20 years. The way they handled this case was it was like they were trying to apply pressure on all the defendants, the lawyers. You heard testimony with some of the witnesses and how the investigators were interacting with some of the witnesses, which is concerning. And that's something that needs to be addressed, because there's potentially another trial in February. They're going to have to use some of the same witnesses. And how tainted are these witnesses moving forward in any other trials?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, all this amount of press and content that's out there. I mean, the jury process was so tumultuous going into this trial. I can't imagine what that's going to be like going into February, man. This seems nearly impossible to me.
Well, I think we might see these cases getting resolved before February, but in the rare instance that this prosecutor, DA Fonnie Wills, decides to move forward, it's going to be scrutinized. You know, she lost a RICO case. I mean, getting plea deals, and obviously I understand why some of the people took plea deals. Right. But, one of the reasons that it may be problematic now that we know what the Department of Justice report reveals, and you having people in jail under those conditions, it's kind of hard not to be enticed on signing a factual agreement like Mr. Sledge did. I understand why he did it. I spoke to him and his lawyer. I understand why he did it. Was it right? Some people are not built for this. Some people, you may be tough on the street, but when you're in a closed environment with other quote unquote, I won't say killers, but individuals who don't give two craps about what's happening outside, because they're in a new environment, and like Woody told you best, it was the worst place he had to be in.
Yeah. And I want to ask you about that too, speaking specifically to Monk Tunk and Derek Wright. Did you hear a lot of conversation between attorneys and their clients, I guess, as the case was going on, maybe little comments about what was happening, and what sense did you get there of just their feeling as the trial was going on? Like, what were you seeing?
Well, let me say this, and this is very important.
Yeah.
If I'm in a hallway and the attorney's talking to his client, I'm not going to share that to the public, because that communication was privileged.
Yes.
I saw certain other individual was talking about what she claimed to have heard. A professional journalist is not going to repeat something that would harm the outcome of the case one way or the other. So if I ear hustle something, I'm not going to repeat it because it wasn't told to me. So I had to be very careful, and I don't want people to go to other courtrooms and think that playing the hallway and trying to see what lawyers are talking about to fight for their client is something that you share to the public. I mean, I'll be no different than working for the prosecutor.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. We did have a question come in. I wanted to ask you from Samantha Crumbly. She says, what do you think about Miss Sylvia, Miss Jackson, Mr. Jackson and his wife, Burrito, and Detective Janice. Now, when it comes to Sylvia, listen, you can cover that if you want to. I know you just dropped a video about it yesterday, I think. So that's up to you if you want to go there. This is your show right now. But shout out to Samantha Crumley for asking about that.
Okay, so that's a broad question. What I think about different individuals. I want Ms. Crumley to be more specific and asking on what individual. I don't want to just give a broad statement on any particular one. If you have a particular question.
Yeah, let me ask you about Detective Super Investigator, social media stalker, Viverito. What?
Your words, not mine.
Okay, well, I'm happy to say it. What were you seeing, not only, I don't want to say from the jury, but when she was on the stand, what was going on in the courtroom at that point? Because it seemed like there was a lot of tension there between not only the defense, but what we heard from the jury now, hearing how they felt about her testimony. What did you think about that?
Okay, so fair disclosure, the day she was giving testimony, I was reporting remotely, but obviously from my listening to her testimony and then talking to other individuals, I think that, and I want to say this before I go into that, I was sent a email from the prosecution of the witnesses that they wanted to have shielded from the camera. I objected to all witnesses being shielded unless there was a security and safety issue. I didn't believe, based on what I knew about her in my research, that she should have been one of the individuals being protected from the cameras, and that was also applicable to Mr. Detective Belknap.
Yeah.
And right after I did that, and this is what some of the things you guys hadn't seen, things started being handled a little different towards me in particular, and how certain individuals in the courtroom was reacting. The prosecution received the email as well as the judge, and I don't know if they said, well, why is this guy objecting? Just, go along and get along. No, that's not how I work. If I'm in the courtroom to bring this news to the public, and there's an issue with a certain individual on camera, this case has been covered all over the world, and you're saying this person should be shielded? Well, we now learned that she wasn't worried about her image when she confronted Miss Bumpus, Miss Jackson, in the hallway. And then she was very, very cocky in her testimony. She didn't answer the questions as it was asked of her. She wanted to, she wanted to volunteer other information that wasn't asked of her. So it was kind of interesting. You're really trying very hard to drive a narrative that didn't align with the evidence was.
Yes. And even shedding a light on how botched this entire investigation was, not only into the seizing of Young Thug's property, but going into the Shamel Drinks investigation. I mean, it seemed like the state using her as their last witness was kind of a bad move, in my opinion.
Well, think about this. There's a $500,000 watch missing.
Yep.
They came into the courtroom with a bag of evidence, and I saw the bag of evidence. Why was his jury, millions of dollars worth of jewelry, placed in one big bag with diamonds and, do you really supposed to handle people's property this way? It's almost like they assumed they was going to be able to keep the property, so they didn't take the inventory, or this was another way to say, oh, we just grabbed it and left. No one's grabbing $1 million worth of items in $1 million home and not inventory and voucher it properly.
Yeah.
Pictures and everything. So we can't ignore the fact that it's a watch missing. And if Doug doesn't have the watch, then someone stole the watch. And if that person who stole the watch is a part of the investigation team, then do we then now believe they don't have a reason to see this man convicted? Because if he's convicted, then they can do a forfeiture proceeding to try to keep his assets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wanted to ask you about, speaking of the jury, I wanted to ask you about your interview that you did and we covered here on the channel with the alternate juror. Man,
Woo! That was something.
That was absolutely amazing. Shout out to you again. If y'all haven't watched that, make sure you go check it out on Mr. Byron's YouTube channel. Amazing interview. What were your thoughts about that whole situation? First of all,
well, I was taken aback by some of the things that she said, because she came in. It did appear she came in with a biases. You know, especially when it related to rap and hip hop. And then she tried to walk you back a little bit. If you heard the interview,
I did. Yeah.
So, you know, and then she said that she, you know, I want your audience to know that I got the interview within 10 minutes of the verdict. After the verdict.
Yep.
10 minutes. I was literally rushing to the court. I got a phone call. And I made the U-turn, went back, and just went live with her. I didn't write any questions down. I wanted to give her a chance to talk, and I wanted to see, you know, because she was there up until the point where everyone rested. So she had a long time, and I have a follow-up with her as a matter of fact. I don't know if people want me to do it.
Please
but I
do.
have a follow-up with her.
Yeah, please do. I'll be watching, and I know a couple of people mentioned they just subscribed to the channel. And they'll be watching too. I was surprised at how, I guess you can call it biased, but how upset she was. Especially her.
I learned some things. I learned some things after that interview.
I'm sure.
I understand. I understand. And all I can say is that based on her background and I want to say some things, but I don't want to blow my interview.
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. No, you can speak on it. You can call back once you do the second one. But I'll say personally, I was not in a negative way. I was surprised at the basis of her bias in that way. And she said she didn't have bias, fine. But how she just viewed this case through the lens of hip hop and through the lens of rap and through the lens of, I guess, somewhat gang culture. It was interesting to me because with the burden of proof being on the state, they really didn't show that this was a criminal street gang, right? I mean, they showed there were a lot of guys out here doing stuff and they were hanging out with each other and making music. So I just wonder where that came from in her case. I don't know if you got a sense of where.
I got a sense that she had a preconceived notion about all these defendants. I even asked her about certain witness testimony, like for example, Lil Woody, and she believed his interrogation was the truth. She didn't believe what he said on the stand was the truth. Did you get that from an interview? Okay, so it's two interviews. You might have not seen. There's two interviews. She believed what Woody said in the interrogation was more believable than what he was saying on the stand, and obviously what he said on the stand just didn't help the state's case.
Right.
So that, and then I asked her about other witness testimony, and then we got into the law enforcement testimony of like Detective Dennis and so forth. It seemed like she believed them even more. And that's in contrast to not only what the other jurors said, but it's also in contrast to what most of the people that have actually watched this case from the comfort of their homes and everything. It did appear that she might not have been paying attention, or she just maybe she saw something that no one else saw.
Yeah.
And I saw the jurors. They spoke about 409. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think we've had several attorneys here in our live chat that have mentioned going to a jury verdict always makes you nervous because you could, and as you heard in your interview that you did with this alternate, that she could have easily have been, filling out a verdict form, and this could have went completely different. So it always worries me. And even when I initially heard the jury makeup, I was kind of like, man, I have no idea what they're thinking right now, because you have jurors on one side who are like, we're going purely based off of evidence. But if you have that one juror like you had that said, no, This is rap culture. This is the gang culture. They were in it. Guilty.
Do you remember early on in the trial, there was an issue with a juror where she had to tell Judge Glanville about a situation that she saw on social media?
Yes, I do remember that.
So I knew at that point this juror would probably be someone that would stand out because she was already, I won't say snitching, but but it was a content creator that was actually in the courtroom, and she had seen him on social media. And my question was, why are you on social media? You were told early on, once you were selected, not to be on social media.
Yeah.
So it was a lot going on with that. So, I kind of figured that she would be someone that would stand out. And she did stand out for a bit when the cameraman accidentally panned the camera on her and another individual. She was, if you remember that, it was two jurors got revealed, and she was the one that got revealed.
yeah, exactly. And then we had the whole situation with the nicknames to the jurors and jurors being offended. Yeah, that whole thing was.
Well, hold on. So that wasn't exactly true. It was the jurors didn't know about the nicknames that Silverback gave them, and I think the judge was wrong. The judge was wrong in dressing down Silverback about that because that was protected under her First Amendment.
Yeah.
So the judge was wrong there. Her lecturing her about journalism. Well, she really, the judge know that there's a bunch of journalists in the room, and she needs to. If she really was interested in following some of the rules of professional conduct in media, she could have reached out to some of us. But I saw what the judge was doing. And if you watch how she dressed down members who was under a Rule 22, I won't say press, but who was under a Rule 22, you can see that she had a certain, I won't say disdain for members of the press, but she was kind of more vocal with those who were either trying to get a Rule 22, i.e. Caleb Bumpus.
Yep, I remember that.
And we're going to talk about that, I guess, on my channel. But
yeah,
I understand why Caleb was trying to get that Rule 22 now. We didn't know what we know now as far as her being married, being married to Shannon.
Yeah.
But now I understand. She wanted to make sure she can document this on her own with her camera. She didn't want to piggyback off Silverback. No pun intended.
Yeah, and y'all go check out Mr. Dennis Byron, man. Absolutely amazing. We've got NC Spence in here. Drop the 10 bomb. She says, thank you for your interview of her. My teenage boys and I were looking at the interview. That interview was a segue into a learning moment for my children. She said, thank you for that interview. Yeah, and I mean, again, you never. Thank God she was not filling out a verdict form, because goodness, that was tough.
Well, I think a lot of people want to know, how did she even get picked on this jury? They had strikes.
Yeah.
You would think she would be one of the people that would have got struck during the the voir dire process, but she made it to this jury, and I think she would, if she stayed on this and she was able to go into that deliberation room, I think they would have had a hung jury. I'm almost certain they would have had a hung jury. I mean, then what happens then? You have a hung jury, judge. A judge gives an Allen charge. Then you come back and we judge. No one. She's not moving. So now you have a retrial, a mistrial, and then you got to come back and try to do it again. That means these guys would have to stay in there for another 2 years, perhaps.
Yeah, that would have been rough. Yeah, thank God it went the way that it did, and those boys are free for sure.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, thank you, Dennis. I appreciate you stopping by the show, man. Again, let the people know where they can find you, where they can check out your content, and we also dropped the link to your YouTube channel in the chat as well.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, I like your content. You did your recap was entertaining. And I will be checking you out as well. And you can follow me. I tell people, Google me, baby. That's it. Shout out to Tiana Taylor.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Just Google me. You can find me all over social media. And also, I think I announced last week that we will be doing a movie from this trial. My business partner, Manny Haley, who has the movie True to the Game, him and I are working on something really nice with the team in LA. So our casting starts next year in January, early February.
All right, there it is. Y'all go support this man, Dennis Byron, in here. Thank you so much for stopping by and supporting the channel, man. And I'm looking forward to that second interview. You know, I'll be there watching, and we'll probably react to it too if we hear some more interesting things.
Absolutely. But yeah, you have my number. Reach out.